Hello there, homemakers. So I did a video on decorating for Christmas and how it coincides with our homemaking. And in that video, I promised to do a video about our religious celebration of Christmas. Now, we're in the season of Advent still. It's not actually Christmas yet. And because of secular influence over, at this point, a few generations, we tend to think of this time of year as Christmas time. And admittedly, I do decorate and we do lots of Christmas activities during the season of Advent. But it's also very important for our family to celebrate Advent as its own season, a season of waiting, a season of getting our hearts ready for Christ to be born anew into our lives. We have a couple of different traditions that we do in our home, and I wanted to share them with you. So the first one, and the one that is probably most familiar to people, is an Advent wreath. So that's just a wreath. You don't even have to have the evergreen part, but usually people have that you put 4 candles in. 3 are purple, 1 is pink, and each Sunday of Advent, you will light 1 new candle. Now, these candles traditionally stand for 4 different things that we are asking for in the season of Advent: hope, peace, joy, and love. So the first week is hope, second week is peace, third week, the pink candle, is joy, and the last Sunday of Advent, that last purple candle, is love. What we do at home is we light this, the corresponding candles for what week we're in. So like right now we're in the second week of Advent, so we're lighting 2 candles. We will light the Advent wreath every night as we do our Jesse tree devotion. The Jesse tree is something that you may or may not be familiar with. It's definitely in the Catholic tradition and actually dates back to medieval times. We have proof of a Jesse tree being shown in some church stained glass from medieval churches. So I really love that the tradition goes back that far. But also a lot of Lutherans do this tradition as well. So the Jesse tree is basically looking at salvation history from creation until the birth of Christ, and basically all of the things that led to Christ coming, and kind of all of the clues and hints and foreshadowing that God put in salvation history for us to learn from. So we start, like I said at the very beginning, with creation, and we walk all the way through the Old Testament up until the birth of Jesus in the New Testament. This year, we started to use a new book. Previous to this, I had simply found a list of readings online, and then I actually found a book at the thrift store, of all places, to make Jesse tree ornaments. So that's what I use to make my ornaments. There's a lot of different things online that you can find, or you can draw or paint your own, of course. But I had started with that and just kind of looked at the readings on my own, and we just kind of had a discussion every evening about whatever reading it was for that day. And that did work decently well. But with small children, sometimes their attention span is a little bit more limited, and a lot of the readings that I had found were quite long, or I wasn't quite sure how to discuss it at an age-appropriate level, especially for my youngest child. And that's where this book comes in. This book is the Jesse Tree Devotion by Eric and Susan Sammons. And this book is an absolute godsend for parents who don't have a lot of planning time. One thing that I really love about this book is that it gives all the possible start dates for Advent. So every year, Advent is going to start on a different day, usually than the year before. For instance, this year, it is the shortest possible Advent that we can have, which means that the last Sunday of Advent is actually on Christmas Eve. Normally that doesn't happen, but this year it is a very short Advent season. So because of that, it can be a little bit hard to know which readings are most important to do or which ones you really want to cover, given the different length of days of Advent. So this book thankfully sets out a calendar for every possible start date, and then all of the readings that you need to do on which days, so that you're covering all the important highlights all the way through the season. So that is a huge help to me, especially on a year like this, where we're quote unquote missing quite a few days of Advent. Then it has the devotions as you go through. Now this has basically like examples of what your ornaments are going to look like if you're going to make your own ornaments, and it gives you readings to do, and some of them only have one like reading option, but most of them, it seems to me looking through the book, have both a short form of the reading and a long form of the reading, which is really great to have that option if you know that one, you're short on time, or your children are short on patience or attention span, that you have the ability to choose the shorter reading option and still get all of the information in. Then it just has a quick devotion with each one. So it's giving you age appropriate discussion points to have with your children, questions to ask, and just kind of highlighting exactly where this scripture story fits in with salvation history as a whole. For instance, on the day that we have Noah, the story of Noah, we talk about how the church on earth now is much like Noah's Ark and how those things relate to each other. Whereas in the story of the sacrifice of Isaac, we're talking about how Isaac is foreshadowing Christ and the different ways that we see that foreshadowing happening. So overall, just a really great book if you do want to start the Jesse Tree devotion. I've not been asked to promote this book. I just really think it's a great option for parents who want to start this tradition, but maybe aren't ready to dive into creating 30-ish days of Bible devotions with their kids. Because let's face it, this time of year is extremely busy for a variety of reasons. So having an option to help us fit in this beautiful scripture devotion into our schedule with our kids is just awesome. So I really thank the Sammons family for bringing this book to us. You'll have to forgive the lighting change in the latter half of this video. The sun decided to go from beautiful soft light to blinding. So we're gonna put the shades down and just work with it. So the last couple of ways that we help to focus on the season of Advent amidst all the Christmas season rush is by really building that anticipation every week when we go to Mass as well. So we go to Mass every Sunday all the way through the year. It's a holy obligation, but obviously it's also something that we do to build and keep our faith going alive for ourselves and for our children. So every week when we go to Mass for the Advent Sundays, we're pointing out to our kids really specifically, oh look, there's another Advent candle that's lit this week. So when we go home tonight, we're going to be able to light a new candle on our wreath. And this just really helps to point it out to the children in a very visible way that we're getting closer and closer to Jesus's birth. And that's something that I really love about our faith, is that we have so many tangible things that we can point to help focus our prayer, focus on what season we're in, and the thing that we're waiting for. Because here's the thing, in the liturgical calendar, in the seasons that we go through in the church year, we're often getting ready for something, or we have a purpose, something that we're supposed to be focusing on. So helping to point things like this out to our kids really just helps keep those things in the forefront of their mind and ours as well. And then finally, all of our other traditions outside of these specific religious traditions are focused on giving and family time and just having that really cozy and loving feeling every single day. So we have our family movie nights, and that really focuses us on being with each other. We make sure that we set aside one day a week, either in the evening, or sometimes we will do a breakfast movie night. That's what we did this week. But we make sure that the kids know that that time is set aside. We cancel plans with other people or say no to plans and just say, you know what, this is our family time. And we have a meal with each other and sit down to watch our favorite movies. And that's a really, It's a really hard thing to find in today's world. A lot of people, they get way too busy, and even our lives have gotten quite busy, even though we really try not to let them get super busy. So it's always a balancing act, and we really try to make sure that the things that we're doing, even outside of these religious practices, are still focused on family and our bond together and the things that we share in common as a family, trying to really build family culture, of which our faith is a huge part. Now, I would love to hear in the comments what your traditions around Advent and Christmas are. There's so many varied traditions, and I'm always interested in learning about new ones. So with that, happy homemaking, and I'll see you soon.